Domenico, can you please check your message?
Okay. In 1 minute, we're gonna start.
Okay, I believe we can start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Today we will present our event From Trash to Treasure, which includes 2 beach cleanups, starting with the beach cleanup in Imperial Beach in San Diego, California, and following the beach cleanup in Dunga Beach, Kisumu, Kenya. Next. My name is Carol Mayone. I'm a researcher at the Department of Geography, San Diego State University, and conduct research at the Metabolism of Cities Living Lab at the Center for Human Dynamics in the Mobile Age at San Diego State. And I'm also doing my PhD in industrial engineering at the Polytechnic University of Milan. I will let my colleagues introduce myself. So please, Dr. Gabriela Fernandez.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Gabriela Fernandez. I'm a professor in the Department of Geography at San Diego State University and director of the Metabolism of Cities Living Lab. My work focuses on localizing the sustainable development goals in San Diego County, as well as Southern California in the Baja California, Mexico region.
So I will introduce also myself. I'm Dr. Vito. I'm also a researcher at the Metabolism of Cities Living Lab. And I will also let the floor to my colleague, Paolo Noviti, to introduce herself.
Thank you, Domenico. I'm Paulina Witty. I'm based in Kenya. I'm part of UNEP Stockholm Plus 50 Youth Task Force and also policy advisor at Sustainable Ocean Alliance. Back to you.
Okay, so the main focus of today's presentation will be on approaches to monitor and tackle plastic pollution. But first, why to focus on plastic pollution? As mentioned before, our first case study is in San Diego, California. And as you may know, San Diego is part of the Great Garbage Pacific Patch on the eastern side. And as such, plastic pollution has been causing several environmental effects, including plastic ingestion from different organisms and entanglement. And where does this plastic pollution come from? So there are a few main sectors that contribute to plastic pollution, including fisheries, coastal tourism, ship-based tourism, shipping, public littering, retail, building and construction, and plastic industry. And as plastic is managed and mismanaged, it can reach the ocean. And today we're going to tackle that part of plastic waste, which is reaching the ocean through accidental loss, illegal disposing, spill, and littering. So our event took place last Saturday, April 30th. It was called From Trash to Treasure Beach Cleanup, and it happened in Imperial Beach, which is one of the main beaches in Southern California. And the beach is located right at the border between California and Mexico. So in general, when we start a beach cleanup, we have several survey questions that we need to tackle. So first, what are the areas where litter is most prevalent? How much litter occurs in the selected study site? What is the litter composition? What are the principal types of materials, for instance, plastic, paper, metal, and so on? What are the principal litter items? Does the amount of litter vary across different sites? And what are possible variables that can affect the input of litter at sea? To start the beach cleanup, our survey supervisor assesses the site conditions, including the weather, tide, accessibility, and safety. They chose the starting point to begin the survey and mark the area, the sampling area, with flag markers. So we divided the beach into 4 transects, size 10 meter by 20 meters, around 200 square meters. And the transects were perpendicular to the beach. Next. This is an overview of the different activities and materials that were used during our beach cleanup. So during the site preparation, we marked the site boundaries and we set up the transects using flag markers, measuring tape, strip transect, and a digital camera, including the recording of the GPS coordinate of each transect. Next, we analyze the litter composition and we recorded the GPS coordinate of the different pieces found. And we asked participants to classify the debris materials, including plastic, organic, and so on, as we will see shortly. We use handheld GPS unit from the participant phone, digital camera to record pollution, data sheet to record the different items, including a waste characterization table. And finally, we analyzed the polymer composition through visual inspection, and we weighted the debris to understand what is the percentage of each plastic, of each material found using a portable scale. In terms of the instruction given to surveyors, it would record photographic evidence of the sampling areas, the GPS coordinate of their assigned transect, and some information about each piece of litter, including the ID, the date, the transect number, collector, and material type. And finally, they use some labeled litter bags to collect and separate waste, so it would be easier than to do the waste characterization. This is an example of the different information that they recorded on their data sheet, including date, site, transect, their name or nickname, the litter items, the litter type, material type, and a short description to better identify the type of litter. You can see here an example of the form and the picture of some of our volunteers. And we also prepare some quadrants within each transect, and we ask surveyors to understand and assess how much of each quadrant was covering waste. In particular, we asked them to identify within this quadrant if it was between 0 and 25% coverage, and that would mean that the beach is pretty much clean. If the waste covers between 25 and 50%, is moderately dirty. Between 50 and 75% is like dirty, and more than 75% would be very polluted. Fortunately, in our case, most of the quadrants were below 25%, as we will see in the second part of this presentation. Within each quadrant, we also asked surveyors to do a microplastic analysis. So they use some seeding to understand how much of this plastic, of the sediments was covered in microplastics. And here is an overview of the different sites in which we conducted observation. South Beach, the westmost side, is where we conducted our beach cleanup, but we also conducted observation along the Tijuana River. Because we were interested in seeing how much of the littering and the different activities along this river can contribute to plastic pollution. So we analyzed 5 other sites, which are the Tijuana River National Estuary Reserve, the Tijuana River Valley Regional Park, which is an area famous for hiking, the Chula Vista Model Aircraft Airport, which is an area at the border between US and Mexico, where we can find the main waste and water management systems, and finally 2 canyons, the Smuggler Gulch Canyon and the Goat Canyon. You may see here a few photos of our sampling sites. In this first one, you can see, for instance, some dead fish on the top right because of pollution along the river. In the next site, here we can see the river being contaminated with sewage, and the sewage contamination can vary across different periods of the years, but especially after rainy days, we can see a higher increase in the percent of like sewage contamination, and the smell in the area is particularly strong. Next, we have the Chula Vista Model Aircraft Airport, in which we can see pollution across both sides of the rivers. And mostly this pollution was plastic, and in particular like containers. Next, we see the Smuggler Gulch Canyon. In this canyon, it was recently built a device for the retainment of waste across the river. And as you can see here, this is the amount collected in around 2 months. And you can see across this pollution, most is like plastic and plastic packaging. The main limitation about this plastic is that it's sewage contaminated. So it's very difficult to recycle these plastics and take it back into the local economies. Next. Here you can see a poster of our beach cleanup that took place a couple of weeks ago. And finally, we have a photo of our South Beach, which is the area that we sample. And you can see on the right side, some of our volunteers conducting the microplastic analysis within selected quadrants. Next. These are some of the results. As you can see, mostly pieces included organic materials such as like wood and so on, but we found also evidence of some like plastic beads. And here you can see another photos of our volunteers collecting plastic. Okay, I will leave it on to my colleague, Dr. Gabriela Fernandez. Dr. Gabriela, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So in addition to having the beach cleanup in Imperial Beach along the US-Mexico border, we wanted to also further understand what was the educational level of some of the people that attended our event. And if they were familiar with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, we wanted them to better understand, we wanted to understand which cities they were located from within San Diego County, and which, let's say, topics were more relevant concerning their own individual preferences. We see here are a number of our volunteers while collecting data. Not only did we have our volunteers collect data across the different transects, looking at microplastics, but also going around and selecting larger items. Here we see a number of our volunteers as they selected several different SDG indicators that are most important to them. The people on the left side were, one was a high school student from the city of San Diego, while we see the people on the right side being from the city of the city of Chula Vista, and these topics were most relevant to them. Here we can see an overview of our work while we were conducting the SDG, let's say, interviews during our event. And here we can see more photos from our event while different high school students from the Prus School at UCSD participated, as well as San Diego State University Master of Science students in the Department of Geography. Here we can see a student from the Prus School selecting these SDGs as the most important to her. And here we can see other volunteers as well who helped with the beach cleanup, selected different activities. We also had some local people from the Imperial Beach area. As you see on the left side, this photo demonstrates the, let's say, the total amounts of waste that was collected during the beach cleanup. We found quite a bit of tar being a major let's say, amount of waste within our beach. We found also a dead squirrel and several different other items. We see on the right, we see SDSU graduate, Nika. And here we can see other volunteers who also participated from the city of Chula Vista, from Costa Rica, as well in Central America, who also volunteered during our event. On the left, you see a student, a high school student from the Prus School at UCSD, who selected these major SDGs as the most important to her for the city of San Diego. And on the right, you see a SDSU graduate student while gathering the data. Here we had some photos that we took during the event. This is our team and our setup during the beach cleanup. Here you can see during the beach cleanup how the process took place. We actually had very clear skies, so it was very preferable. We did have a bit of winds, but impressively, the beach was not as dirty as we imagined. So there was not a high number of waste that was collected. These are other photos from during the event. And actually what we decided to do was also not only collect the trash at the microplastics level, but also at the larger level. We categorized the different items based on categories from paper, plastic, metals, wood, food, organic, and so on. And we wanted to also measure and to see the different quantities for each different category. What you see here is that the majority of our items were mostly on the plastic category, pertaining to bottles, plastic wrapping, bottle caps, beach toys, plastic containers, straws, plastic cups, following with mixed category, which contain wood, tar being a major item, clothing, face mask, organic waste, and paper as part of paper wrapping, sheets, and receipts. Here is during the stage where we sorted the different categories of waste within paper, plastic. We also weighed the trash bags to understand the difference amount of waste based on category. Here you can see a bit of the items that were collected during the beach cleanup. As you can see, a majority of them being plastic that were found. We found several different plastic bottles, different metal items, as well as glass items. And it's important to understand that this beach is definitely located near local businesses, whether we have restaurants along the area. During the event, we also had a graduate student from San Diego State University, Thomas DeRig, conduct a survey to better understand if people were aware of the contamination of trash within this beach. So this was something that took place for a course at San Diego State University in the Big Data Analytics program. So thank you very much. I also wanted to share some of our findings, as well as the ones that were just recently reported. If I can just really share my screen quickly. Okay, do you see the Excel?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the majority of our participants were between the ages of 18 to 35 years of age. We see that plastic was a major category within our findings, as being metal as well, in paper and cardboard. Concerning the different area, the estimate visual coverage along the beach area that was focused on, we see that the beach was predominantly very clean. So as 25% of the beach was found with waste. If you want to go back to the presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Now I will turn it over to my colleague, Pauline, who will discuss her findings that took place during the Dunga Beach in Kenya.
Thank you very much. So for us, we had a very simple process during our beach cleanup, which took place on 7th at Dunga Beach. We chose a section of the walkboard where people walk to go and do the boat ride, where fishermen walk when they're from the lake or going into the lake. So basically the main organizers of the cleanup were Kisumu Environmental Champions, and which is a kids environmental group. And then we had the Jijenge Youth. It's basically for women and youths. It's a group that empowers women and youth. And then we had Whirlwinds, as well as the Poly Foundation. So generally, we had like 29 participants who registered on our online form, and 13 of them came on site. That 13 additional that didn't register online. So we had a total of 42 participants. Then just to break down, we had 27 male and 15 female. And the age range was between 20 to 28. So we had many people between 20 to 28. Next slide, please. So we started by training them on how to collect data using the GeoPaparazzi app, because most of the people were not familiar with it. So we had to take the few of them that had smartphone and functional smartphone that could download the app through the app and how it works and how they would collect the data. Next slide, please. So this is when we started doing the cleanup, and down here, the one with the yellow is when we started segregating. So basically we concentrated on large plastics or other large things, and not the micro ones. Next one. So just to give you a brief statistics on what we got, we had most of them were plastic bottles. Most of the collected trash were plastic bottles, and 97 of them were branded Coca-Cola, while 236 were not branded, mostly drinking water bottles. And then we've also found aluminum and glass. So basically the glass were of alcohol brand, and they weighed like 12 kgs. And since Dunga Beach is a place for fishermen, we also found 5 fishing floaters that were disposed around there. And unfortunately, we had 1 HIV plastic bottle used already. We also had 8 meters fishing rod that was disposed along the beach. And then lastly, we had peppers that weighed 2 kgs. Yeah, so that was our statistics. Next slide. So I'll hand it over to Domenico.
Yes, thank you, Pauline. Before going to the next part that will be more interactive, maybe I ask if there are questions for the previous speaker, also regarding their activity and so on. I don't know if someone wants to. Okay, if no question, let's go ahead. So originally this activity is a workshop, so there will be also an interactive part, and the interactive part will be on data gathering. We see the two activities of beach cleanup, and both of them have collected data. But why it's important to include citizen science and to collect data, for example? These two experiences that we see before are experiences of citizen science. And actually, it's important because collecting data for the SDG compliance is a key also to complete the data set that are actually available for measuring, for example, the reaching of SDGs. This is true also for the SDGs that are regarding level of the water and also all the SDGs regarding the ocean in general. As you can see, also the UN Secretary Independent Statistic Body is by considering citizen science as a source of data, and in particular, the citizen science as like we experience into our initiative, is capable also to collect data where they are missing. It's estimated that the citizen science contribution can increase the availability of data on several SDGs. But why it's important and how to consider the participant and the citizens into collecting data? Basically, the citizen science activities activates participatory sensing and feedback loops. Participatory sensing is the activity where, like individuals with devices and with other form of collection of data, are like becoming sort of sensors for the environment. This can be done, for example, with smartphone and or with other devices. And actually, it returns information also for the decision maker, properly activating this circuit of sharing of information that can allow, for example, to bring more conscious decision and more informed decision. Actually, we can consider, for example, participation as a part of the sustainable development. Surely it can be a dimension of sustainable development because it helps to understand also the context and also the data regarding the environment and the data regarding the problem that we are facing. For example, in this case, the marine litter problem. But how to collect and organize data? Now let's go properly in our activity. The first step for, of course, implement an initiative of citizen science is to collect the data. We did that, as my colleague was mentioning, through an app that's called GeoPaparazzi that can allow to get the coordinates of a site and also to attach photos and information. And the first step, of course, to organize and activate initiatives of citizen science is to collect data. These make, in a way, the environment and the information regarding the environment more accessible. The second step is the organization of data. So once we have data, of course, we have to find a way to structure all the information into a fruitful way. The first step that we can do is to create an ID for each type of for each instance of information that we are gathering. In this case, for example, for each litter or for each point we are finding litter, we define a sort of ID that can help to identify the point where we are finding the litter. Then there are metadata. Metadata are data that are side to the main information, that is the core dataset. The core dataset contains the very useful information. In this case, for example, the weight of trash, the type of trash that we found, and so on. The metadata actually are useful to describe better the main information that is contained into the core dataset. The third step and the last step, sorry, for there's a glitch here, is to visualize the data. So to create like a way to use the information also in a graphical way. And this can be used by dashboards or, for example, maps. And properly with maps, we are gonna deal in our activity. So the idea is to like create a map of the data that we have collected into the two activities of beach litter. And so now we are going to divide into two teams, the ones for the Imperial Beach and the other one for the Dunga Beach in Kenya. Here you can find also a QR code and a link to a folder where you can find properly the data that we have collected into the two activities. I will briefly explain how to like create our own maps, so our own way to visualize the data. So in the folder, you can find few files. The one is the Excel file where we gather all the information and all the coordinates in the points where we find trash. The photos of the littering, for example, the one that we show in our presentation, and also another file that is the coordinates and all the data gathered in the form of CSV file. And the first activity that we have to do, of course, is to download the CSV file, so the CSV format of all data that have been gathered. For creating our maps, we will use like Google My Maps. And now I will show briefly how it's working. So just one moment. Okay, here there is the folder that I was mentioning before, where we have all the data that are gathered. I'm opening the file, and as I said, I can download in the form of CSV format all the information that we gather into the table. So I can say, for example, in my computer, then I go to my Google Maps. I will just remind the address that is this one here. And then I'm gonna create a new map. So to create a new map, I have to center my my visualization to the site that I'm considering. For example, here you can see San Diego. Okay. To create like a visualization of our like data that we collected, so all the coordinates that we collected, I can just import the CSV file. So I click on import here. So the software is asking me which type of data into the table I want to import into my map. Or like for our sake, we can select all the data. Then the software is asking me which type of like identifier I want to use for like distinguish the different points into my map. For example, I want to distinguish the points, labeling them by the time. So we'll decide the time. And then, as you can see, there is a layer of all the points that I collected during my collection activities. The blue spots that you can find here are properly the same points that we collected during our beach litter. And actually, all the information is organized in layers. So you can create also more layers into your map. The last interesting thing, you can attach also in each point a photo. For example, I can, just like clicking on the photo icon, add a certain photo. So I can associate to the point or to the like coordinates that I see on my map, the particular photo that I found into the folder that maybe is relevant of that point. Maybe is the photo of the trash that I found into my litter activity. So our exercise in our workshop now is properly to create our own map. Now I will open the breakout rooms in order to let you create the maps. I will guide you, of course, into the process, and I will share with you the folders between the two teams. The last thing, after we have done the map, of course, the map and the visualization of data is useful also to like reason on that. So to create also other information on the top of what we like visualize. And for example, in our activity, we are asked also to have some outputs from our mapping activity. Here. So once we had done our map, the group is asked to reason on the map and actually come out with some outputs. These outputs are regarding the pattern that maybe we are finding into the trash, the scenarios that we are like envisioning for the trash, and also some hypotheses on how to reuse the trash. And I share also in the same folder that I showed before, an open document that you can use as a whiteboard to work on the outputs. So let's start with the activity. I will now open the breakout rooms, and you can select which of the two case studies you want to be engaged in. I don't know if before there are a few questions or there are like some doubts or comments before starting. If not, I will open the. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
please.
sorry. Yeah, Sonigitu from Nigeria. Just a quick one.
Sure.
Hi. Please, could they give us a little elaboration on those wastes that have been buried below less than 10 inch? How they were extracted during the cleanup?
Okay, you mean the microplastic?
Yes, that are buried.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will let the floor to my colleague Carlo Maione for responding.
Yeah, I think I can address this question. So in our case, as mentioned before, we prepare some transects along the beach. And within each transect, we did like quadrants. And for each of these quadrants, we asked participants to sieve for microplastics. So they would analyze, let's say, a deeper layer of sand to see if there is any like microplastics or any like waste in particular within this layer of sand. So this is how we did it. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let me know if this answers your question or you.
No, yeah, fine. Thank you. It did.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're ready. I will open the breakout room. You can select the one that you want to choose among the two case studies. And in the meanwhile, I will be on the background helping you also in creating your maps. So the goals are to create the maps and also elaborate some outputs regarding the information that you are having through the map. So here you can select. And once you are all sorted, I'll come to your room and I will send the link to the folder with the data. Hi, Shola, welcome. You are now on the workshop part, and I will assign you to the one breakout room. Okay, welcome back. So let's wait for the last join. Okay, welcome back. We are here all. We have closed the sessions. So I hope that you enjoy the breakout rooms and you've been able also to like give a chance with the map and also interact among each other, talking about what to do also with the collected trash. That also is a very important point. I kindly asked the two groups to report in a way their discussion and their activity. So maybe let's start with group 1, that's from San Diego. I think that there is Carol that can report a discussion.
Yes. Any one of the participants would like to present what they found? Perhaps you can share your screen. I believe Kadiga was in the San Diego group. Kadiga, if you would like to report on maybe they're a bit shy. Anyone else that joined the San Diego group would like to report on their findings?
Yeah, just briefly, just also 2 sentences what's about the interaction inside the groups.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Kadiga. Hi.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I had a problem with my phone about the context or the content of documents. It didn't open with my phone yet. I can't open in my phone, but I appreciate your efforts. Yeah, and I understand what you say already. I told her I'm Sudan. In last December, we had published citizen science workshop in sustainable water management. Did you hear me?
Yeah, sure. We are hearing you.
Yeah, about report for your assignment, I can't did it, but I understand and appreciate your efforts. Yeah, but I told her about what I do in Sudan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I told her in Sudan in last December, we had published like a workshop about citizen science for sustainable water resource management. And we had a problem about and now I'm a president of Sudan Youth Parliament for Water. We had a problem about people. We had a problem in volunteering job in Sudan because the political situations and also the people who can attend or to do like what you do in San Diego or Kenya. We had a problem to get people knowledge and to engage them in do something like this. So I discussed with her about if there's get a connection to get to my college, and is it costly what that you do to get your experience in my country.
Okay, so I'll take the chance to sharing to the chat a Google form for the follow-up to this event. So for the ones that are interested to maybe organize a beach litter as we showed, or activities as we explained into the webinar, you can kindly compile this form, and we will get in touch with you, and maybe we can understand how we can collaborate, and also how we can make beach cleanups in your countries and so on. That's a thing that I am addressing to Kadiga, but it's open to everyone. To everyone that wants to organize a beach litter as the ones that we show in San Diego and in Kisumu, please compile the form and let's get in touch with us. Okay, maybe let's pass to...
Thanks.
You're welcome. And let's pass to group 2. Maybe, I don't know, Pauline or any other of group 2 that wants to report.
Okay, thank you. Anybody from group 2 that would like to report on the interventions that we just made? Anyone? If not, I could go ahead. So basically, Chao, did you talk?
Yes.
Oh yeah, do you want to go ahead?
Oh, we talked about during our discussion, or I ever mentioned about how we reuse those waste collected from the beach. One of the example is that we use that over 20,000 or so plastic bottles to build, and the shape is like Noah's Ark, and then to raise up the awareness of try to not to use plastic, and we use those plastic bottles to build a building, and then as the venue for exhibition and also for some activities. That's one of the examples. And the other example is that our local artists ever used that. They use the drifted wood and to make art pieces, and also create art pieces to decorate our local park or the green land here. As to the other waste, because we have a very, very strict policy here. So every 2 days, we can just carry out our recycler, all the recyclable items, and we gotta put them in different, separate them in different categories, and then we have cars that would come over to pick these recyclable items. So it's the same. It's the same. After we pack all the trash we collected from the beach, we actually separate them in all the different bags. We also give them labels and hand them over to those officers and companies who are in charge of the necessary next steps. That's how we do it here.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience. Any other from group 2 that wants to add something?
Yeah, basically we also talked about recycling plastics to make pavements, a case scenario that is happening in Kenya with a group called Jijenge. Participants also talked about using the plastics to make kitchen gardens, which was amazing. Intervention was also made on the importance of creating community awareness on ground waste disposal and its impacts to the ecosystem. And then one talked about the pattern of disposal among the coastal communities, where you also mentioned on how the waste gets into the ground, buried into the ground, and some like get into water. And then one gave us an example of how they reuse like single-use water bottles. How some community members reuse single-use water bottles by putting local drink in them, filling them up with the local drink and selling them again to the people. And also the government coming in by collecting the wastes and taking them to the recycling company.
My friend,
Yeah.
Ushafika.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, if anyone could add more, those are what I captured. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. So I don't know if there are other interventions. If not, I think that we are gonna go into the conclusion of the session. So we hope that we give an opportunity to talk about marine litter and also to give some concrete experience on how to tackle the problem. Also thanking to beach clean activities and citizen science. Just remember this initiative was one of the satellite activities of the main event on UN Decades of Ocean that is still running. I don't know, I will leave the floor for also for some, Leah, please.
I'm in Venezuela, in South America.
Sure.
Now it's in the midnight, so it's the problem of the hours. It's very interesting what you are doing, because here in Venezuela, also we all the time we are making this cleaning of the beaches. I am a retired professor from the university. I am a marine biologist, and I work on an NGO, and I'm interested also in the protocol that you are using, taking the sample, because I am like a researcher. I agree with you that we must put the data and use the community and work together. I work with the community, with the scouts groups, and to share and try to obtain data, and then to not only the cleanup of the beaches, and because the data you can then manage the litter from the beaches. And then the idea that the data to compare with another places, it's important to unify the protocol. So I would like I'm now filling the form that you put, and I would like to share our experience. I have more than 20 years working in the coast here in Venezuela, taking samples, and I have data, but I don't know what to do with my data.
Okay.
In a very simple in Excel, but I would like to screw up my data. And I've tried to. I would like to know, because I don't know how to use the R program. That's the way that from the beginning I try to use. But if it's important, I think that it's important to share the data, and I would like to share with you if you can also help us here in Venezuela to organize all this data.
Thank you very much, Leah. So please compile the form to get in touch. I also share again our contacts. So please get in touch and write to us. because I think that synergies are always welcome. I saw also Sonijitu to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Great discussion so far. Yeah, I was just following up on the last discussion who talked about having a data and not understanding or using it. I think it's also good for us to see the various angles most of this data may be utilized, because the private sector also needs this data to understand how their investments and new opportunities can be distributed. So if we could have a discussion board or platform that we're able to see how we exchange ideas, then a lot of data that are out there can be useful for other related things, not specifically for one particular purpose that it has been collected. I think that's my input. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Okay, I kindly invite you all to compile the form, and here on the screen you can see our contacts. So please get in touch with us. Ibrahim, also I see your raised hand. Please, Ibrahim.
Yes, Domenico, thank you for organizing this. And yes, I just have a question about the form you have just submitted. And the question goes like this, sorry, it's a beach cleanup, and these plastics and pollutions are also on the terrestrial ecosystem on the land. So I don't know if it's applicable for one to fill the form when organizing community cleanup like that, so where there is no beach or something else. Yeah, thank you.
On this, I will let you respond, my colleague Carol Mayone. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, Ibrahim, and thank you so much for your question. Yeah, like the idea in our event was to show like the impact of plastic pollution in different like water environments and how they can eventually end up in the water, both in the lake and in the ocean. But of course, let's say even though plastic pollution in the ocean is like one of the biggest environmental threat, it's also important to understand that like the impact of plastic pollution are also like detrimental on like different natural ecosystem, which can be parks, woods, you know, or different environment. So I believe the protocol that we use can be used for the collection of microplastics and solid waste in general in different environments. What would be different if you were to run a cleanup in a different environment can be, for instance, like the question that you ask yourself. So for instance, if you're not trying to understand the impact of the ocean, you can try to understand the impact on a wood, on a different local ecosystem, and how those can be affected by plastic pollution. And as we did like the analysis of like sand sediments to understand, let's say, the depth and the magnitude of plastic pollution, you could also try to test soil for soil contamination or vegetation and how that is impacted by plastics. So I believe it's important to understand like each specific environment has different characteristics, but also as we try to show to different like beach environment have very different characteristics, because we need to take into consideration like local features. I don't know if Pauline wants to add something to that, but yeah, I hope this answered your question. And I think you raised a very important point.
Thank you, Pauline. I don't know if you have to add something on.
Sorry, I had a comment for this question or this.
Yeah, sure. Kadiga.
Yeah. Is there other replacement like bioplastic, maybe to overcome of plastic, because its degradation takes many decades, the plastic. If we also my idea is about we can step forward about the production of plastic to be more eco-friendly, to maybe using bioplastic or the concept of biodegradation, or yeah. already I had my master project about bioplastic. I had a patent about the bioplastic from agricultural waste, about how we can using or utilizing waste in the production of bioplastic. And I had a patent about the bioplastic, my country. The concept is about how we can using or how we can make our ecosystem more friendly about degradation in many years, more than the plastic.
Yeah, thank you. You raised also another important point, that is biodegradation. And of course, this needs to be done in a proper way. Do not harm like eventually that. Thank you for sharing also your experience. Surely education is one of the main point. On that, I will remind also two maybe resources that you can address. On the metabolism of cities, maybe also Carol can add more. There are several educational toolkits that are addressed properly to educate on SDGs and also on SDGs related to the marine environment as well, together with the colleagues, Carol Maglione, Gabriela Fernandez, and also Ibrahim Inusa. We were part of the UNEP MGCY Marine Litter and Microplastic, and we developed a position paper properly addressing the importance of education to tackle the problem of marine litter and microplastic. Maybe
I believe your connection is unstable, Domenico, and it was not really clear, but just to recap, I sent in the chat both the link to the Metabolism of Cities Living Lab website with a few of the ongoing project. Also, please be mindful that the website is under renovation, so there will be more projects and resources coming up soon. And I also added the link to our position paper, as Dr. Vito just mentioned.
moment. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Also, please feel free to reach out about any question about any other project that we're running as of now. And as Domenico mentioned, just feel free to reach out for any collaboration or just to share your experience with us.
Thank you very much. Now I think that we can go to the conclusion. Pauline, I don't know if you want to share some last remarks. We can close.
No, I'm cool.
Thank you very much to all the participants. Thanks to all the also volunteers that have joined our beach cleanup, and hope that we gave you also a frame on this important problem, and let's foster on tackling this problem of marine litter and microplastic. Thank you very much, and let's keep in touch. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day, good night, wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.